right, welcome everyone. Welcome to tonight's section, Advanced Excel for Data Analysis course. We are going to be looking at data validation, data forecasting, and pivot table. I want to welcome everyone for tonight's section. We are live once again. Yesterday, we handled 20 advanced functions. We handled 20 advanced Excel functions for data analysis. And today we are going further into data validation. We are going into data forecasting, and we wrap it up this night with pivot table. My name is Franklin. Once more, I'm a seasoned data analyst with minimum of 7 years experience, also a HR consultant and a project manager. Lead consultant, Soluma Institute of Tech and Management. Once again, you are welcome to tonight's section. This section is Advanced Excel for Data Analysis, and we are going to be looking at data validation. We are going to be looking at data forecasting. At the same time, we wrap it up, like I said earlier, with pivot table. If you are just joining us, you are welcome. Let me know your name and where you are joining us from. Your location, where you are joining us from, much appreciated. And if you are just joining us, I will encourage you hit the like button on this live session, and then go ahead and share this session to anyone you know that needs to learn this data analysis. Why is data analysis very important in this age? This age is an age where data is no longer underestimated. Whatsoever we do it in data. We need data for businesses. Even in this AI age is data driven. In the AI age, 100% data driven. Hence, the need for skill as regards to data analysis can no longer be overemphasized. We no longer be overemphasized. Everywhere, every industry, every organization needs a data analyst. Why? To make informed decisions, in order to be able to analyze the trend, uncover insights, be able to analyze data in order to support decision making, to support innovation, to support growth, and every other thing we can imagine. Data is life. I want to repeat that statement again. Data is life. Why do I say data is life? Every organization lives on data. Let me repeat that. Every organization, in fact, let me take it further. Every successful organization maximizes data effectively. Most times when business fails, it's mostly hinged to lack of data management. And tonight we are going to be seeing in ways in which we can effectively manage our data. All right, we are welcome once again. Kindly let me know if you can hear me, if you can hear me, if you can see my screen. We are live once again this night. Tonight is Advanced Excel for Data Analysis. Tonight is Advanced Excel for Data Analysis. Let me know once again if you can hear me, if you can see my screen. Drop it in the chat box. Drop it in the chat box. Let me know if you can hear me, if you can see my screen. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I welcome everyone to tonight's section. Let me know if you can hear me, if you can see my screen. Drop in the chat box if you can see my screen. And also, if you belong to any of the platform, go there and drop in the group that we are live. Go to that group, we are live. Welcome once again. Tonight I'm going to be explaining in a nutshell, briefly, what is data validation, and then we take it to data forecasting before we delve practically into what we have for tonight, because we need to understand what is data validation, how we can utilize it, and then what we can uncover from that. Please let me know if you can hear me. Let me know if you can hear me, if I'm audible enough. Let me know. Drop in the chat box. Let me know if you can hear me, if you can see my screen. Drop in the chat box so that we can commence immediately. Time is, if you can see my screen, very much appreciated. Let me know if you can hear me, if you can see my screen. Drop it. I need to confirm from us we have limited time this night. We have limited time this night. If you can hear me, drop in the chat box. All right. All right. Now, we are going straight to data validation. Beautiful. Thank you very much. We are going straight to data validation. What is data validation? What is data validation? Now, data validation is a function, a tool in Microsoft Excel where we use to restrict data entry. It is very, very important in data entry. When you are designing a data form, an entry form for your staff, for any person entering data, you need to restrict it. You will need to put some measures, assign certain things so that it will limit errors. It will limit errors. That's why we say data validation in Excel is a feature that allows you to control what users can enter into a cell. Now you are a sales manager and you have sales reps, or you are an inventory specialist and you have persons that enter data in Excel, enter inventory in Excel, and you want to limit errors like product name or product category or like sales reps. You want to limit errors or numbers, ensure that they enter only number, not alphabet. Data validation is that tool in Excel that you use in order to insert such control, in order to insert such restriction. In other words, when one enters stores, enters value, enters data that is not allowed to be entered, then Excel will flag it error. Excel will tell the person, no, this data is not allowed to enter in this cell. That's what data validation helps us to achieve. Hence, it ensures data accuracy. What that means is that if you allow, let's say in units, under inventory, maybe under inventory we are talking about item units, and you want the unit to be within a certain range. Let's say it has to fall within 1 to 1,000. In other words, you understand that the organization does not order anything above 1,000. The organization doesn't order anything above 1,000. So you need to put that restriction to ensure data accuracy and consistency. That's by setting rules and restrictions for data entry. Very important. That's one of the key essence in data validation. Now, having said that, what are the key features? What are the key features of data validation? What are the key features of data validation? The first is drop-down list. It gives you a drop-down list. Let's say you might have filled a form, and when you get to a certain place where you see a months, and you click a drop-down arrow, you see January, February, March, April, stuff like that, or you are filling a form and it gets to the place of states or to the place of country, and you click the drop-down arrow, you see the list of countries. Then you select your own preferred country or your country of origin. The same aspect is what data validation gives us that privilege to do, a drop-down list. In other words, a predefined input. Now, when you declare or define those lists, Anybody that enters anything outside that list, Excel will not allow it. Anybody that enters anything outside those predefined input, predefined data, predefined list, Excel will not allow it. Those are what we refer to as validations. All right. Now, having said that, the next is limits. Limits for number ranges of test length. Like I said earlier, between 1 to 1,000 or between 1 to 10. If someone enter anything above 10, then it will not enter in that cell. So it gives limit, it gives such restriction, it gives such control. Also, it can also limit the dates. If the entry should be should be only this month, you can input it, you can restrict it, the start date and the end date. You can say first May or 1st April or 1st June 2025 and then 30th of June 2025. Anybody entering anything beyond this range, that will not be allowed to enter. That is in the date and time. You can put that restriction. Then the next, you custom formulas. If time permits, we might get to complex validations. But tonight we are looking at real life problems that data validation can help us to achieve, can help us to solve. However, we can custom formulas for complex data validation. We might do that this night on as we progress in this course, or in this course, data analysis using Microsoft Excel. All right. Now the next is error messages and input prompts. Error messages, it gives us privilege to put in a message when persons enter something that is not legit, that is not correct. There will be a pop-up message. There will be a pop-up error message to let the person know the data you entered is incorrect. And these are summary as regards to data validation. Okay, now having explained that, the next we look at is what we refer to as data forecasting. The next we look at is what we refer to as data forecasting. All right, now we move to data forecasting. Now, what is data forecasting? Now, the data forecasting is all about the aspect we refer to as predictive data analysis. Is what we refer to as predictive data analysis. Now, what is forecasting? Now, we say that forecasting is a process of using historical data to predict future outcomes. That is just that, is the aspect is an aspect of using historical data. When we want to forecast future outcome, future events, we need past data, we need historical data to study it, understand trends, understand patterns in that particular data in order to forecast, in order to state the outcome in the future. What mostly will be the outcome. Now, in prediction, we have what we call confidence interval. We have in the interval where we are confident that this, what we are forecasting, will happen. A range where we have the upper bound and the lower bound. That within this range, I'm confident. I'm 95% confident. I'm 99% confident. I'm 90% confident. I'm 85% confident that we will have these sales, that we will have so output, that we will have so outcome. That is data forecasting. It makes use of historical data to predict future events, future outcomes. We use it in financial analysis, we use it in business analysis, we use it in project analysis. These are ways where we can use data forecasting. All right. Now, the next we look at is the key features. We are going to be looking at the key features in data forecasting. I'm taking it a bit fast so that we can get into the practicals. Now, what are the key features future trends. I have talked about that. Forecast future trends based on historical data. Then we also have to create charts. You can use that to create charts for with trend line projection to know where the future outcome is going to fall based on your line chart. Okay. Then we can also customize seasonality, confidence interval, and timelines. I have talked about that. When we get fully into the practical section, we will be seeing this thing. These are key features of forecasting. These are key features of data forecasting. Then the next one is useful for time series data like sales, traffic, budgets. Like I have talked about the sales data, I talked about business data. That's where we begin to talk about your business budget, your monthly budget, even your project budget, and the likes, project plans and the lines. Once it has to do with something time bound, that forecasting comes handy. All right, now this is a summarized aspect in data forecasting. Okay, now having said that, we move straight to pivot table. Pivot table. What is pivot table? This is one of the major tools, one of the advanced tools, one of the important tools of Excel as regards to data analysis. It helps us to analyze large volume of data with ease. Pivot table helps us to analyze large volume of data with ease without writing any complex formulas, without using any complex functions. It's just pivot table, drag and drop. You drag, you drop here, put here, put here. The rest is history. That is the power of pivot table. Now, like I said, pivot table is a dynamic Excel feature that allows us to summarize, analyze, explore, and present large data sets quickly, with ease, without writing any formula, without writing formulas, writing functions. That is the key aspect of pivot table. It's dynamic in the sense that it can do a lot of stuff within this function, within this tool in Excel. It's dynamic. So it's a dynamic Excel feature that allows us to summarize, analyze, explore, and present large data sets. It is mostly for large data sets to do it with ease and at the quickest time possible. That is the aspect. That's the aspect of pivot table. It's a very, very important tool. All right. Now the next is also, what are the key features of pivot table? What are the key features? First, like I said, is drag and drop field for flexible summaries. Is drag and drop. This is the core feature of pivot table. Drag and drop. You are not writing any formula. You just drag the column headers, the column names, drag it, put in this column, put in this box, put in this box. Other things take care of itself. All right. Then it has group, it has filter, it has sort. It can group, it can filter, it can sort data by any category. These are core features. Also, we can show you total averages, percentages, and more. It integrates slicers and timeline, which we are going to be seeing as we delve into this particular feature, this particular tool in Microsoft Excel. And it's here that we wrap up with these three key tools, these three fundamental tools of Excel as regards to data analysis. All right. Now, having said that, let's get into Excel. Let's get into Excel. All right. I want to open the data that I will be using for this section this night. I want to open the data we are going to be using for this section this night. I opened the wrong data sets. Please bear with us. Bear with me. Bear with me. Yeah, this is the data we are going to be using for tonight's section. All right. All right. Let me collapse this so that we can have a more, and let me zoom in a bit. All right, now this is the data set we will be working with tonight. Now remember, I said that data validation is the aspect which we use to validate, in other words, to restrict, to assign rules. Now we have this data set here, and let's say we have a case where this data set. Yesterday we used a function. All right, let's create our serial number for this data set. Let's create serial number. We are just going to use the function we talked about yesterday, sequence. I'm going to type 50. This data set is 50. I hit enter. Okay, it gives me 50. Now remember, yesterday to turn these numbers into real numbers. These are numbers, we are seeing it 1, 2, 3, but Excel is not seeing it as 1, 2, 3. Excel is seeing it as a function. So to turn these numbers into real numbers that Excel will recognize as 1, 2, 3, we need to select this, hold Control, hold Shift, press the down arrow to highlight the entire range, and then press Control C to copy. Now once you copy that, you come over to this place. You want to paste it over on this. Click on this place, go to home. Once we get to home, come to paste. Click this drop down arrow here. Click this drop down arrow, and then go over to this. You will see it. It will show value. As you can see here, it shows value. You click on it. It does that. Paste as values, and then press your escape button. The escape button is the first keyboard on your first keyboard, so that way you have. So if I click on this, you see it 1, you click 3. If I click on this, so Excel recognizes what we have. All right, now let me format this like we have the other ones. Think no, this should be this, and then this. All right, beautiful. Okay, now I think I use the wrong color. Let's just leave it. Now we are going to look at to apply data validation, so that nobody will enter whatever that is not in our products. Nobody enters what. Now let's say this is a sales record, and a person makes sales. Once the person makes sales, he will come here and enter what he or she sells. So in order to make it faster, at the same time, in order to prevent errors, we can assign data validation to this particular column. We can assign data validation to this column. We can also assign data validation to this column in order to prevent errors. Please, that is one of the key essence, like I said, to prevent errors, and then to avoid entering what we don't have. Let's say in our store we have these products. Let's use unique function to know our product. We can say equals to unique. Double click here to know the products we have. Control Shift down arrow, hit enter. All right, now from here we have that the product we have as regards to is home and kitchen. That's category rather. Under the category we have home and kitchen, sports, clothing, electronics, and books. That's the category we are dealing with. So one of the things we need to ensure is that nobody enters something. Maybe the person comes here and type. Maybe the person types instead of clothing, the person type something like this. it will scatter it in our analysis. This Excel will see this as different and then see this as something different. So in order to avoid errors like this, or somebody will enter something like this without entering H, in order to avoid this error like this, we need to insert data validation. And to do that, we just have to come to this. We want to assign this column. We click on it. Everything on this column, we want to assign data validation to it. So to do that, once we click that, we come to data, select this, come to data tab. On data tab, you will come to this. You see it, data validation. So you click on it, come to select data validation. Now this box will appear. Once this box appears, you come to any value. You click the drop down arrow, this comes out, you select list. In this case, we want to enter list of items. So here is the source. Where is the source? Now let me close this. There is a way when I prepare some of these things for clients, there is a way I do it. I will first of all, this, let me Control C and then paste it back as values so that it will not be as this. All right, is this. So what I will do to this is I will select this, Control X, cut. I want to put it at a place where it will be difficult for persons to reach. I press Control forward arrow. If you missed the first essence, the basics of Excel, I have taught some of these shortcuts to get to the last column. Control forward arrow, that will take you to the last column. So here I'm going to declare this place. I'm going to call this place category. So under it, I'm going to paste this. Let's get back. Let's copy this again. And let's come here, Control forward. Under this, let me paste. Okay, now this is my source data, but I don't want people to see it. Why do I need to list it here? I will show us. Let's proceed. I will show us why I needed that list over there. Okay, now let me delete this. Let's go, or let me leave it, Control Z, so that, now let's go back to our data validation. Now, if I come over to this place, come to data validation, I will come over to here, this place. Now select list. Here, let me Control C. No, I wanted to copy. I forgot that equality sign is there. Now, there are different ways in which we do the validation, in which we declare the list. Either we type it. It is case sensitive, so know that whatever you type here is case sensitive. Then we put home and kitchen. You separate it with comma, then sports, comma, clothing, comma, electronics, comma, books. Now this is a way you can do that. This is one way you can do that. Now what we see here, let me copy this, Control C. Now what we see here is, if once I say okay, this place we have the drop down list, but that's not what I want. What I want is that all this column, everything in this column should have the drop down list. Everything in this column, or from here down. So what I will do is that I will cancel this. Now if I want from here alone, I will say hold Shift, press down, it will select the entire range. I press down again, it will take me down. It will take me down. So if I press Control Backspace, I get back upward immediately. Now what I just did is that I have highlighted all this down. So all of them, once I do that, I go to data, come to validation, this comes out, I will come over to this place, select list, and then let me paste it back, Control V, what I typed. Now once that is done, I will go to input message, error alert. Now I need to emphasize something here. I will explain these three things. These three things here, stop warning information. I will explain it. However, this is the place of where I'm very much interested for now. So on the error message, like we saw in the introduction, the error message, let's say I can say this was that is I can put here incorrect entry, comma, kindly check your entry and try again. Now let's say this, when someone enters what is not in the validation list, this is the message that will pop up. Incorrect entry, kindly check your entry and try again. That is what will pop up. So when we come here, this is what we have, and then I will click OK. Now once that is done, you will notice this drop down arrow here, this drop down list. If I click on it, you see all these, those what we entered here. If I come down here, it will have it, but here we will not have anything drop down because it wasn't part of the selected cells. It wasn't part of the selected cells. Now let's go down. Now let's go down and see if peradventure the person doesn't know, and it comes here. If you click this, you enter, that will show. And let's say the person come in here to type in, let's say type something like this. That's one thing about the flash field. It will show what you are trying to enter because it's in the validation. Now if I do that, this is wrong, and move to the next one, it will show me that error message. It says incorrect entry, kindly check your entry and try again. So I need to cancel this and then re-enter it back. So this is one thing, this is the aspect of data validation. Even if here I mistakenly enter a number, let's say here and move down, it will tell me. So whatever that is not in the list will not be entered. Whatever that is not in the list is not going to enter. So we use this to restrict error entry in our data validation. All right, the same thing you can try in this place. For product, we can also run using unique function. Those functions we learned yesterday. Double click, come to product, select, Control Shift, down arrow, hit enter. Now we begin to see the products we have. These are our products. These are all the products we have in our store. So here now, Excel is seeing it as a function, so I need to Control C down, copy it, then copy, come over to this place, come to paste, and then paste as values. Now, of course, Excel automatically sees it as a value. So that way, we already have a unique list of our products, a unique list of our categories. Now, this is something I need. Let me copy it, and let's go over to this control forward arrow over to this place. I will call this one products. Let me call it products and then paste it here. I needed to paste before doing that. Let me come back. All right. Copy, Control C. Okay. And I paste it here. Now, why am I doing that is because of what I'm about to do. Now, remember that when I did this validation here, this validation on this, what I did was simply to come over to this place and enter them manually. I entered it manually. But if what I will do now, what I will do now for the products, I will say Control, hold Shift down, and then down again, and Control backspace to come back so I can see my data set. Go to data, and then come to validation, click on validation. Now I will head over to list. Now under this list, I need to get my source data. Now I will click this so that I will click this up arrow here to get outside this place. Come over here, Control forward arrow. So I will have to come here to select. So here I'm going to select this. This is my source data. Why am I doing that? I can click this and bring it here. Now there is a reason why I'm selecting this. There is a reason why I'm not typing it manually. It's fast, and at the same time is more efficient. It's fast, at the same time is more efficient. So one of the things we need to understand in using this is that I strongly recommend you use this pattern. I strongly recommend that. Then here we can input our error message. We can say incorrect entry. I believe we will be able to finish these 3 functions. Incorrect entry. Kindly check your entry and try again. Okay, now we have this. Then we say okay. All right, now let me control back. Now when you come to this place, you see the drop down list. You can scroll down to see the list. Now let's take for example that here we start another category. Our company enlarge. We start to be selling, let's say, building materials. Let's say venture into building materials. This is category, and then we now have, let's say, what building material will I, let's say we now have let's say we are dealing with zinc for now, roofing sheets. Let's say we are dealing with roofing sheets. Now this is a product, this is category. Now if I type this here, it will not be in this validation. Now I will have to go and do the validation again. I will have to come here, select this, and then select down again and do the validation again, which is going to take me time. But if I use this previous pattern, now let me say Ctrl C, and let's go forward here. Now, and I will come here to paste it, V. Now, if I use this as my data source, or this one as my data source, all I need is to select this, come to this place, the thick outline. Once your cursor is like star, hold shift, and then drag it in, put it in any of these. Hold shift, just put it anywhere you want. If it's here, remove your hand from this place before you remove it in shift. Now, having done that, let's go back and see if our roofing sheet is now part of our validation. Now you can see that roofing sheet is now in our validation. Every other thing is valid. If we move down, you see that our laptop is there. Here we see that the roofing sheet is there. So that's why I recommend you use a data source instead of typing in manually, because if there is a change in your list, you are going to redo it again, go back and do the validation again. But if you have a list, somewhere, you just come to that place, enter the new data, and then hold shift, use shift and drag it anywhere in between the source. You can drop it here, you can drop it here, you can drop it here. That way you don't have to go back and do the validation again and all that. So that is why I recommend the aspect of using a data source. All right. Now, to wrap up this data validation section tonight, there are other things we can use data validation to build. When we get into building real life projects, next week we are going to move into building some real life projects like data entry form, sales data entry form, like building some report forms, budgets and stuff like that. We are going to be seeing the area we can use these functions, this data validation, in order to build something very, very interesting, something very, very powerful. All right. Now, to wrap up this, I promised to explain something to us. Okay. Now, this as an example, I want to put validation to this cell. Now, I will come to data, come to validation, and this place. Let's say in this place, let's say I'm using whole number. It will ask me between. Under this whole number, it will ask if you want between is not equals to. If you want a number that is not equals to this, or a number that is equals to not equal to, greater than or equals to, all that you select. But for this, I'm using between. So if I have 1 and then let's say 100, in other words, I'm saying the number that will be entered here should be between 1 and 100. So once that is done, I will no need for my error message On your own, you can put the error message due to time, and working with time, we need to. So here, did I close it? Okay. All right. Now here I can, if I enter 1 or 3 or 10, it will enter. But if I come here and enter 101 and move down, it will tell me no, this value doesn't match the data validation restriction defined. If you put any error message, that is what we show. Now let's go back. Now let's go back. Let's go back, please. Let's go back. There are certain things I want to explain now. In this validation, now here I'm going to also use this number, and then let's use that one, and then here also 100. However, the next is for us in this error, you see this stop. This stop here is the aspect that whatsoever you do, if you like do anything, it will not change, it will not allow you. You must enter the right data. You must enter the correct data before it can allow you. That's the stop. But if we come to warning, now you put warning here, and let's say we type in incorrect. It's not a must anyway. We put in incorrect entry, for example. Incorrect entry. Everything okay, we say okay. Now watch. This one is stop. This one have the aspect of stop. This one have the aspect of warning. Now if I enter 121, move down, it will give me that warning, incorrect entry. But it's now asking me a question. Should I continue? Do you want it? If you don't want it, you say no. It's telling you what you entered is not correct. Incorrect entry. If you want it, you type yes. You click yes. If you want it, you click yes. And once you click yes, the data is allowed. But here, if I type 121, it's not even giving me anything it's not asking me any question. It's not asking me any question. So that's the aspect of warning. Okay, now let's look at this one, and then we wrap up the aspect of data validation for this nice section. On your own, you take time to check these words. Like if you have date here, like I said, you can put the start date and end date. If you want them to enter the date within a particular range, you can put a start date, and then put the end date. Very, very important on that. Then here you can decimal places, whole number, date, time, test length. If you want the test length to be between so length and so length, that you can do. All right. So, but let's go back to the number we are using. Now this is also, let's maintain 1 to 100, and then under the error here, this one I'm using information now. The first one is stop, the second one is warning, the third one is information. So let's leave the error message that we know we can type in there. All right, now let me say I put in 131 and move to the next. Is telling me the value doesn't match. The value doesn't match the data validation restriction defined. Once I click OK, it will still be there. The data will be there. So the one that you most likely to use when you don't want any error at all is the one stop. So when you check your validation when you take your validation and you see something like this in your error message, you see, and you didn't see stop, you see this, change it to stop, because you don't want any error at all. You don't want any error at all. If I change this to warning now and say okay, if I enter 143 here and then move down, it will ask me a question: do you want to continue? All right, that is on the aspect of data validation. As we progress on this course, we are going to be seeing the applications, more real life applications of data validation in real life scenario, in real world problem cases, use cases, to build a budget, to build some timeline entry forms, budget plans, and what have you, even some sales reports and all that, where we use data validation in that comes handy. We, in fact, as a data analyst, most likely that do reports, that write reports, design entry forms, and that most likely you will be using data validation in your work. All right, let me delete this. We are done with this. Okay, the next aspect we are going over tonight is in the aspect of data validation, data forecasting. Let me remove this validation. Let me remove this validation here. Okay, any value here. All right, no validation here. All right, the next we are going to be looking at is data forecasting. Now, like I said earlier, what we use forecasting to do is we use data forecasting in order to predict future events, future occurrence. That's what we use data forecasting to do, to predict. Now, let's take, for example, this is our sales data. This is our sales data, for example. And we want to forecast. Let me call this forecast date. Let me call it forecast date. All right, don't want it to be too long, so that's why I think let me reduce these data sets to the aspects that, because I need some space. I will be needing some space. Okay, I think also this one. Okay, follow me. I will be needing some space here. All right. Okay. Now we have this as forecast date. Now what date we have? We have this. We can see this is a weekly data. is a weekly data from what I'm seeing here, 1st, 8, 15, 22, and so on and so forth. Is a weekly report. Is a weekly report. So at the end of the week, we have this report, kind of is weekly report for each of these. Here we have this as a weekly report. So if we look at this from January down to, this is from January down to December. This is January 2024 down to December. Now let's say, for example, we want to use this to forecast. Want to use this to forecast certain dates. Let's say what our sales will be in the month. This month is May. So what our sales will be in the first May 2025. What our sales will be 1st May 2025, and then what our sales will be in the 2nd week, then what our sales will be as well in the 3rd week, which is 15, and then we have the 4th week, assuming the 4th week, okay, that's okay, 22. I'm using, there is a formula that should have given me these threads, but let me type it so that we can see that's how this data is entered. So let's say, for example, this is what we have. Now, if Excel has a privilege where if I type this first one, type the second one, and then drag down, let's say I drag down now, it can do this for me. Let's say I want to get for, that of May and June. I want to get for May and June. Now this is forecast date. Now our manager asks us to give insight from the data we have to check what we most likely from this data, what is most likely will be our total sales. What most likely will be our total sales for the first week of this, what most likely will be sales. Now under forecasting, we have what we call forecasts. We have what we call forecast.linear. We have linear forecasting. Let me call it that way, linear forecasting. So let me put it that way, linear forecasting. We have what we call linear forecasts. Then we have what we call seasonal forecasts. Most likely this is the two forecasts we have. Forecast.linear, linear forecasting, seasonal forecasting. Now, we will use this to build certain trends. Now, in data forecasting, this is our historical data from what we have. This is our historical data. This is the future prediction we want to make. Now, in what are we predicting? We are predicting what our total sales will be by the first week of May 2025, using this data as a reference point. Using this data set here as a reference point, what our total sales will be, all things being equal, using this as a reference point. So in the first week of the month we make this is what we are having to do. Now the linear forecasting is more like a linear trend, a straight line. If it's moving up, it's expected to be moving on that straight line, angle on a straight line. That is same like we know that angle on a straight line is equals to y equals to mx plus c. This is equation of a straight line. So where the y is the dependent variable, the x is the independent, m is the slope, and then c the intercept. Now in forecasting, we have our forecast dates, we have the dependent and the independent as the case may be. But you need to understand your data set. If your data has seasons, if you are as a salesperson, you know that in during the December period, during the dry season, November, December, sales tends to shoot up. Let's say the kind of business you are doing during those periods, sales tends to shoot up, and then there are times the thing goes down, and you know it happens like that every year. That trend is there. Then that shows their seasons. So if in a year you have 5 seasons, 10 seasons, if you use focus.linear, you are most likely to get error. Now in forecasting in Microsoft Excel, there are 4 major forecasts. 4 major ones. We have focus.linear, we have focus.ets, we have focus.ets.seasonality. We also have focus.ets.confined. The one of confined is the confidence interval, which we are still going to do tonight. I believe I want to see how far we can go to get this done. All right. Okay, now let's look at linear forecasting. Let's look at how we can use linear forecasting. The formula we say equals to FOR, you see forecast. Here you see focus.ets, ets.confined, you see focus.ets.seasonality, focus.ets.starts, focus.linear. This is the one we use. Focus is no longer obtainable in this current Excel. What replaces it is focus.linear. So no, please. All right. So the known wise is right. So the known wise is the total sales. So we select it, hold Control, hold Shift, press the drop down arrow, then Control backspace to get back where we are. Now once that is done, in order to lock this, in order to lock this place, we press F4. Now F4 is to lock it. Remember we did that when we were preparing payroll, to ensure that it doesn't move when we drag this one down to calculate these ones, so that this will not move. Now that settles the known y. Then the known x is the date. we come over here and we hold control, hold shift, down arrow to select the entire range, control backspace to get back to where we are, and then press F4 as well to lock this as well so that it doesn't move. Now that is the focus linear. We hit enter. What is saying to us is that from these data sets, from this, by this we should be having 5,118 dot something stuff like that. So here we are going to, let's reduce it to 2 decimal places, because we are dealing, that is currency we are selling, is we are dealing with money. Okay, let me drag it down, double click, it settles the rest. So here we can decrease the decimal places into 2. Now what we are seeing here is a linear forecast. Now as you can see, is increasing, is in an increasing order. Now let's plot a chart. Let's plot a chart of this. Let's plot a chart of this of these two. Let's plot a chart of these two. Go to insert, come to chart, recommended chart. Let's say we need a line chart rather. This is what we select, and we say okay. Now you look at this chart, you see it's a straight line. This is a straight line chart. What we are having here is a straight line. But if we plot a chart of this, let's highlight this, hold control, select this as well. If we plot these two charts now, let's see if it will be in the same format. Now, recommended charts, you see what we are having here. You see that this chart is not straight. This chart is not straight. We are having an up and down movement, which is showing us that this data most likely we have season. This shows us that this data most likely has season, is a seasonal data. Okay, now having done that, let's delete these charts and then find out number of seasons, if this data has seasons, to know what number of seasons the data have. Okay, now we say equals to focus dot ets dot seasonality. We select this, it's asking us values and timelines. So this is the values. We click here, hold control, hold shift, press down, control backspace, that value, then comma, the timeline, we select this, control shift, down arrow, hit enter. So if this data have season, we will know it's showing us 0, which mostly from what we see is a spiral curve. Now once that, from the data we have, it shows a kind of spiral curve that is not consistent. So in other words, what we are seeing here is that this data doesn't have season. However, we can analyze it further. We can analyze this data further. Follow me, please. Follow me. We can analyze this data further. Now we can put this into months. We can put this data into months. Let's do that and say equals let's convert it to using text function to convert our date, this date, into months. So I select this, comma, what format do I want? I want it in months, so I will put this, then hyphen and year. This is the format I want, the date format I want it to show, and then I hit enter. Automatically shows me in January 2024. Now if I drag down, I need to stop here. All these data are in months now. All these data are in months. Now let me use unique. Let me use unique in order to get them to be in months. So I can now say equals unique. What is the array? I will click this, control down, and hit enter. So what it shows me is this. It shows me this month. Now if I do that, that means I'm going to do the same. I'm going to do the same thing, assign this data set to this. What that means is that use the unique function and then sum if. Now in the sum if, I will use sum if to calculate those that has January in it. Those that have January in it, once I put them here, those that have January, I will get the total sales, and then those that have May, and then check again if under this there will be seasons in it. Let me freeze this so that it can allow me to move. All right, this is the data that I need. Okay, now for this data set, I can come here and say equals sum. Double click. From what I'm seeing here, my January ends here. Let me use this pattern, but I can use some if for that, and then drag this. If I position this data by the side, I can use some if. Okay, let me use some if. Now what range? This is the range I'm summing. So I'm going to control down and then control backspace and press F4 to lock it and put comma. Then what criteria? The criteria is this. Okay, now is asking what criteria. Let me type it. Okay, now the criteria, I'm going to select this. Forgive me, that's what I should do. And then comma the sum range. I made a mistake here. The range should be this. The range should be this. The sum range So let me change this to P, and then this one to P as well. Okay, so that this is this, and then the sum range is this. Control backspace, and then lock it as well, F4. So what I'm doing here is that if you see anything here that is this, sum it alongside this, I hit enter. It gives me the total value for this. Now with this, I can drag it down. I can drag it down to calculate the rest for me. Now if I double click, you see what I'm calculating, the same thing. So with this now, I can now check if this data have season. I can now check if it has season from what I have here. Now values. What values are we looking for? Is covering those, is covering the data. Let me delete this. I can do that here. Let's say focus.ets.seasonality is asking for the values. These are the values, and then comma, what is the timeline? This is the timeline we have here, and then we hit enter. It gives me this. Now why is that so? Because this is in a format of formula, and then let me copy it, Ctrl C, go back here and paste it. Now escape. All right, now the next I can do to this is I will come over to this and then go to data and change it to short date. Okay, it doesn't have this and that. All right. Okay, I think we can now, yes, what we need to do on this now is we will now need to assign the end dates, the end month to this. Now this one will now be, this will become maybe the last week of the month, which is for this, which is 29, this place we assign the last for that, which is from what we are seeing here, 26. We do that for this, and then run the analysis again. Let's quickly do that. Let me come to this, copy, Ctrl C, let me paste it here, Ctrl V, then let me come over to this, copy, I don't want, Ctrl V, this one, all right. Now we have this. Now the next we can do is, let's come over to this formula again, and then let's remove this here. The values is this, comma, and the time is this. We hit enter. It still shows us there is no season in this data. So having done all the necessary analysis, this data is showing us there is no season on it. So we can do well to remove it. However, it still shows us from what we did, it still shows us is not a data that moves in a straight line. It's not a data that moves in a straight line. So what we need to do is we will now have to forecast it using ETS. We say equals to forecast dot ETS. What is our target date? This is our target date, comma, what is our values? This is the values. Hold Control Shift down, press F4 to lock it, Control backspace. We have locked it, comma. What's our timeline? Our timeline is this. Control Shift down and then Control backspace. Also press F4 to lock. Remember to do that. Press F4 to lock. All right. Now we have this. Focus.ets. It asks us target date, timeline, seasonality. This data doesn't have season. This data doesn't have season. Other things, we ignore it. We hit enter. Now, with this, from the spiral movement, you see there is a change. This seems to be the most accurate. Among this and this seems to be the accurate one. And then, okay, we locked. Here we can drag it down. So we see this. This seems to be the accurate data set from what we are seeing here. So in other words, if we can now come here and look at from what we have here, what is the interval? What is the confidence interval? What is the confidence interval? Let me put here. So to calculate the confidence interval, we just have to say equals to focus.ets.confined. Double click on this. What is our target date? This. That's our target date, comma. Then what is the values? This one. Hold Control Shift down, Control backspace, F4 to lock it, and then put comma. What is the timeline? This is our timeline. Control Shift down, Control backspace, and then F4. F4 to lock it as well. All right. Now the next, we put comma. The next is the seasonality. The data doesn't have. What did I use? Okay. The next is confidence interval. Now here you declare your confidence interval. In statistics, in social science, they generally will use 95%. 95% confidence. If you are using 90, 99 as the case may be, but here we are going to type 95% confidence interval, comma, then seasonality, it doesn't have season, we can allow Excel to dictate it. If we didn't put seasons, we are allowing Excel to dictate the seasonality of that data, whether it has or not. So with that completion and that, there is no need, so let me remove this comma and hit enter. Now what we are having here is 11,000, and what we have here is 2,000. So with this confidence interval, most likely we might not get this. What is this confidence interval entails? This confidence interval entails is a range. This can be within this range. We can forecast now within this range. What that means is that here we have our upper bound. Here we have our upper bound. And then we have, so that when we are forecasting, making predictions, we are making it using this. So we can drag it down to calculate for others. This, we have the same thing. Beautiful. So what this is that our forecast should be between the upper bound and the lower bound. In other words, we are going to let the manager know, okay, in this month we are going to make is possible we make between this and this. And as a manager, this is what you use to set target, sales target, any target to and majorly sales target. Those may be in the bank, they give them target, or a sales officer, a sales executive, you give target of the month and then place performances. Okay, this, if your sales target for the month is so, you need to make minimum of this. But if you can be able to make this, you are going to get this. If you make anything above this, you are getting an extra incentive. Is this forecasting ability we can use to put such performance incentive in place. As we HR, we want to put performance incentives based on data driven, not just from your head. You wake up this month and you call the staffs, you call the sales persons, you say our target for this month is this. What data are you using to validate that target? This is the monthly target, this is the first performance target, this is the second level performance target, this is the third level performance target. Like some organizations we have some might say bronze target, silver target, gold medal, gold target, diamond target. What data are you using to set such target? You need to ensure that it's data driven, because when people perceive that target is not achievable, the motivation is lost. So with that, the upper bound will be equals to this plus this. We are using seasonal forecast because focus.ets, because we said that this is the most accurate. This is mostly recommended that we use. So we hit enter. Did we format this place as date before? I think so. Yes, it's on date, so we need to take it. Let's leave it as general. Let's make it to be in general. Is formatted as date. Let's put it in general. So this is what we have. The lower bound will be equals this minus this. Hit enter. We have this. This is our lower bound. This is our upper bound. So with this, I can drag this down. And then here I can drag this down as well. We have our lower bound and our upper bound. This based on this confidence interval. So our focus is between this. No. What did I do here? Wait, please. This will be this minus this. So my lower bound should be in negative. My lower bound should be in negative. This is a generated data, is not a real life data. So Why do I recognize that I made an error? The reason is this value must fall between the upper and the lower. This particular value must be seen to be between the upper and the lower. If this value is not found between the upper and lower, then that's an error. That's an error. So that is the aspect of forecasting. You use focus.linear. This is focus.linear, focus.ets, to focus.confined, and what have you. Now, we have done this. Let's look at Control Shift down arrow, still holding Control, then select this and select this down. Now once this tool is highlighted, let me show us a shortcut, a very shortcut to this. Go to data. On data, we see focus sheets. Focus sheets. We click on it. Automatically it dictates this. You see what we have. This is the chart we have earlier when we plotted this chart. This is this chart. Now this is the focus chart. It's showing us is something that has to move in a kind of straight trend. Now we have the upper, we have the lower. From what we did earlier, you see that in our lower bound we have a negative stuff. You see this in the negative, and you see this one in the positive. Like in our upper we have 15 something, and here we have in that range. In our lower we have also in that range. Hence, there are other options here. What you can see here, you can focus to the third of this. We can come to other functions. This is 95% interval. As we noted earlier, this data doesn't have seasons. If it has season on it, if it has season, you will see the number of season here. Now the focus end, if we want to end it, let's say we want to end this, one thing about this is doesn't have long focus. That's why focus sheet. If you are using focus sheet, let it be within a limited time. It doesn't focus for long. Maybe it doesn't focus for years, 2 years, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, and so on and so forth. This doesn't really give us that. So for this, we want to stop at what's our end date? That's 26th of June 2025. Where is it? That's 26. So that's what we have. So we see this and this, 26th of June. That's the focus end date according to what we have here. So once that is done, we say create. You see that Excel created another sheet with the charts. With the chart, we are going to see that what we did earlier is almost the same to what we have. Now you see here, this is where it ends, 2024. 2024. Now, it started to focus. It started to focus from here, from 2024 down to June 2025. Now, if on your own you can try to go to December 2025, you see that most likely it will not get to 2025. Most likely it will not get to that. Now, you notice here that in the other table, in this table we have here, we see that our upper bound is 15,699. Let's go to this one. The upper bound is also 15,699. So that's the upper bound here. This is the lower bound, the lower confidence bound, the upper confidence bound. When you click on this, you see that Excel automatically use the same formula we use, focus.ets. Here it used the confines, getting to get the confidence interval and do the other mathematics that we are not interested in. That's what gives this. So you will see that is the same to what we have here. But the beauty of this is that I can use this function to forecast for 2027. But I will not use focus sheet to forecast up to 2027. Try it on your own, you will see that that will not give you that. On your own, 2027, 2030. But here I can forecast for 2030. I can forecast for 2030. That is on data forecasting. That is on data forecasting. There are other stuff we can use it for, to cover trends, to predict. So within this, we can use this to set targets, use it to predict sales, use it to make some decisions, know when sales goes up, when sales goes down, know when we can put discount, when we can employ more staffs. Maybe within December we have much sales, we need more sales personnel. We can employ on ad hoc, we can employ on part-time, as the case may be, on contract. With this forecasting, it gives us insight to make certain. Let me unfreeze this so that I can see my full data set. All right. Now the next we will be going to, let me know if you can hear me, please. Let me know if you can hear me. All right, the next we will be going into is we will be going into pivot table. We will be going into pivot table. And like we said, we use pivot table to analyze large data set. But before me here, we can see what we can use pivot table to do. We are talking about forecasting, where we predict weekly sales, what we can see per week, we have been able to predict, and that we are moving over to pivot table. Now, for pivot table, we are going to look at how we can easily, what we use some if to do, we can easily do it in pivot table. Let's say we want to analyze sales by region as regards to product category. We can use pivot table to achieve that. All right. Let's say we click within the data anywhere here and go to insert. Under insert, you see your pivot table. You click on it. Automatically, it will dictate the range of the table. It will dictate it. That's the range. Now it will ask you want it in a new worksheet. That's where we want it to be. And then we say okay. It will open a new worksheet. This is the pivot table field. There are certain things I will explain. I would have, you will get to learn effectively on running to ensure that we finish. All right. Now here is, if you click out, you are outside the table. The pivot table is out. But if you click inside here, you get the pivot table. Within this range is the pivot table. Outside is not the pivot table. However, manager comes and said, I want to I want you to give me a report of sales as regards to regions and then product category. We want to know how much we are product category as regards to each region. Now, with that, if you want to use functions, you can use the functions, the unique, the sum if, and that in order to build that analysis, in order to get that insight. But with pivot table, you can do that within seconds. You just do that within seconds and forward it to your manager within seconds. You can get it done. And how are we going to do that? We are going to come over to this place. This is our field, the column field. Our manager wants to get the region. Now let's say we put the region here in the column. So we put region here in the column. We have the east, north, south, and west. Then the product category. The product category, we drag it, click hold, and put it in the rows. We have them here. And then what is our total sales? We want to know the total sales. We pick the total sales here and move them to values. Automatically, it calculates. Now, under this pivot table, it shows us the total. If it's in product category, it shows you total. Now, let's take, for example, our manager is not interested in getting the total for all this. He just need to know books, how much we are making from books in the eastern region, books in the northern region, and likes, clothing, and that's what he needs to know. So what do we do in order to remove this grand total? In order to remove this grand total. Now, please get this. This is with clicks, we have been able to achieve this, and in seconds. But to remove this, we go to pivot table design. Now, under pivot table design, we come to grand total. We come to grand total, we say off rows and columns. Off rows and columns, that disappears. It disappears. Now, that is, on that, there are other things. If you want to add color to this, you can see it gives you different colors. You can also show this as the case may be. These different tables as the case may be, different design. You can add any color of your choice as the case may be. Different designs, stuff like this. Let's say I have this, that is on that. Now the next thing is this. Let's take, for example, our manager doesn't want to know the total sales. It wants to know the counts. He wants to know the count. How many books did we sell in the eastern region, northern region, and what have you? You want to know the count, not the total sales, not the sum of the total sales. We come to this place. You can come over to this, click the drop down arrow, and go to value field settings. Now, once you go to value field settings, you come over to this, and then you see it's already on sum of total. You can select count. Now, once you select count and you say OK, it shows in count. That means for books in East, we sold only 1. In the North, we sold 3. In the South, 2, as the case may be. So with this, you can quickly draw insight. You can quickly draw insight on your data set to get on your own. You can try to check other insight from this particular data set. On your own, you can